I'm back. Steve, I'm getting sick of you doing these live videos. They're stupid. They're stupid. Let's get some people in here, and then I will talk about what I'm going to talk about. That's probably the most annoying thing about live feeds. This is the first 5 minutes. Good morning, Daniel. Stu Manchu, Newhouse, Rick Jones, Kevin Baracus. What did we learn, Kevin? That's a very good question. Yes, I made the bed. Yes, Newhouse, I did make the bed. Anthony Blackbeard. Yes, I made the bed. That's not what I'm... Good morning, Nothing Witty. That's what I didn't learn, okay? Hotshot Dave. I saw that you tried to go live earlier, but it's hard to go live while you're driving because your signal will cut out. Hammer Down, what's up? Gear Grabber. I was first this time, not third. Awesome. Shadow Wolf, what's up? I don't have coffee. I need to make coffee. Well, I got a choice. I can make coffee or I can go inside the OC here because that's where I'm at. Check it out. Oh, look at all the orange there. I'm at a pumpkin patch here. And they got a coffee machine in here. So, morning, just got home. Get ready to have steak and potatoes. That's a good meal there, Speedwagon. Jeffrey, like TC running your place of work. Well, you know, Truckers Coach is involved in this little story. So, last night, Truckers Coach went live. What was that video titled? Let's look, people. Da, da. Let's look, right? McGee Films, what's up? Pumpkin Time, where's the faces? History. Truckers Coach did a video last night. Now, I'm not bashing him whatsoever. This is not a bashing Truckers Coach session at all. In fact, quite the opposite. He labeled it Snyder Choice Program Management. Listen to your owner-operators. If you build it, they will stay. Now, the problem with that video is that it kind of went off topic. Kind of. And that's not Coach's fault. That's kind of just where the conversation went. Now, if you guys don't know, Coach is doing this podcast thing, and he's fixed it to where you can hear the phone calls now. So that's cool. Dollar Bill, what's up? James Best. Jay Raven, you're welcome. Broke down in Georgia waiting to get the truck room. Oh, man, that sucks, dude. TK, what's up? TK needs to start doing videos. All right, so... John Spano, you just interrupted me watching your Snyder versus Landstar video. Okay, so that has something to do with it too. I'm sure Truckers Coach is watching going, what are you going to talk about? You going to talk about be bad? No, I'm not going to talk bad about Coach at all, because here's what I learned. Here's the title of the video, okay? I learned that last night that all of us lack in information. All of us lack in our own education in what the laws are, what contracts are, and what's expected when you lease on with the company. There is a lot of hearsay and rumors by a lot of drivers. Myself, okay? So if you guys did not watch Coach's feed last night, I actually called into the show. And he was happy to have me on, and we had a very good discussion. But yet, I started getting bombarded with Schneider Finance questions. And if you guys know, I'm not a Schneider Finance driver, okay? That's a different ballgame. The MMA account thing came up, and there was confusion on a lot of issues with the MMA account. And I said a few things that were probably wrong as far as like you don't get an itemized bill and that kind of thing, because I'm going by hearsay that I had heard from other drivers, and I get on to people for that, and I did it myself. So for that, I apologize. I told you guys I'm real. So the end of my phone call, I was sounding confused. So, you know, and people even said it in the chat. And so I just had to end it, because it seemed like we started on one subject and then we just kind of did this weave. And so Sharon Lambert, who she was a Schneider IC, had to leave Schneider forcibly, and she went and got her own authority. And she wanted to say a few things, and she could say it a lot better than I could. Why? Because number one, she was Schneider Finance. Number two, she has her own authority, so she knows a lot about different things than I do. So what I learned last night is that all of us, we need to educate ourselves. If you're running a business, even if you're not running a business, even if you're a company driver, you want to educate yourself. You know, Sharon, she had like the actual FMCSA number, you know, of what they were talking about when it comes to the rate cons and all that. And this message is for Schneider as well. It's obvious that, you know, and Travel Local kind of went through the same thing. It's obvious that we have 2,800 owner operators here. Okay, that's 2,800 different experiences, and you have a lot of guys over here that are failing because they're failing to educate themselves. Now you can sit there, well, you just do simple math, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But for the most part, I think that Schneider could educate a little better on how to run the low board. I think that there should be education on, number one, there's a lot of good YouTube sources on how to run a business, what to look for when you first start a trucking business. They're legit, cut and dry. OOIDA's got classes, the whole 9 yards. Know your laws about your rate cons. If I want to go see one of my rate cons at Schneider, you know, that was a huge discussion. You know, you'll get fired if you ask for it, or you have to go to Green Bay, or they won't show you, or it's actually this. You know, there's so many different things. And so the whole show last night just was scrambled. It was all over the place. And I contributed to that because I wasn't educated on a few things too. Because there are people at Schneider Finance that are like, well, no, Steve, you're wrong here and here and here. And I get it. I'm not an expert at the Schneider Finance side. However, on the phone call, I was asked about it, and I had to say something, right? So my biggest mistake was calling in, because I thought I had something to add to the show, and I said a few things, but then it got sidetracked, and then all of a sudden now I'm talking about something that I don't know anything about. So educating yourself beyond the YouTube truckers, beyond the hearsay at the truck stops. You know, I can go to every IC truck here, every owner-operator truck here in this yard, and I'm going to get all different stories. You know, some are doing good, some are doing bad, some are loving it, some are hating it, and all those different perspectives. You know, think about that on YouTube, the digital noise that I've talked about before, including myself. I don't know everything. I just uploaded a video. I'll release it here when I'm done, about the little truck stop book. And it's tough out here. I would hate to be a rookie right now. You know, when I first started looking up trucking on YouTube, you had Tex Crowley, who's in here. How you doing this morning, Tex? You had Trucker Steve, you had Eskimo Sean, you had Trucker Journey 95, you had, you know, a couple others that were educational. They kind of gave you a real look of what we go through out here. Now, we have people like me who just do vlogs that just talk to the camera, and sometimes we know what we're talking about and sometimes we don't. And that would be, so basically YouTube trucking has turned into this big huge, the counter at the TA. That's what we have now. There's some good tips out here, there's some bad tips out here. And do you contribute to the good information, or do you just add to the bad information? Sharon got very passionate last night, and she's dealing with something with Snyder. You have people claiming that they get fired or they lose their lease if they come and look at the Raycon and all that. And I wouldn't know anything about that. Then there's the whole, well, we're not getting the true 65%, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And it's just the common ground on that is that we need to educate ourselves. Gary Compton says misinformation or going off rumors can make or break your business before you even start. That is 100% true, Gary Compton. And there are YouTubers that go off assumptions, that go off rumors, that go off, hey, 2 drivers over at this company told me this. Benjamin Duke says, you did good. You're not using the lease truck program. Why do you need to know the details about it? The contracts change year to year or per deal. And that's what I tried to, Benjamin Duke, I appreciate that comment. That's what I tried to do last night. I tried to make it a point that every single person at Schneider Finance has a different deal. Every single person. I had a friend of mine that got into the 1-year lease with no money down, and he had bad credit. Okay? So, but if you talk to other ICs, oh yeah, you got to put $2,000 down for the 1-year lease, or you can only get new trucks on the 1-year lease, or this, and all this other stuff. And and every single person I know at Schneider Finance has gotten a completely different deal. What Stieberger had is different than what Christian Trucker has. What he has is different than what Gary Compton has. What they have is different than what Dre had. And then everybody's experience, if they leave Schneider Finance, is different too. So it's there needs to be some what's the word I'm looking for? Consistency, continuity. Big Rich says, that's why I just talk about my life, my own personal mess. Right, Big Rich. That's what I try to do, and I try to share some knowledge, but I don't want to be the guy that says, okay, this is exactly how it goes here. I have people call me and they ask me, oh, what are the rates like at Schneider? Are they good or bad? I'm like, well, it depends on your perspective. It depends on what you're looking at. It depends on what you're looking for. Is it better to do long haul or short haul? I'm like, well, it depends. Everything is variable. Everything varies. Everything, you have to, this is the most diverse industry. It's not straight across the board. What works for SoCal doesn't work for Jeffrey Like, and vice versa. What works for me doesn't work for you. The bottom line is you got to educate yourself. And that's what I learned last night, was that, wow, we all need to educate ourselves. And that's all I'm trying to say. Newhouse says, I did no money down, but I've heard people having to put 3 or 4, sometimes $5,000 down. Right, Newhouse. I've heard that too. I know a guy that I went to orientation with. He was trying to get into a Volva, and they wanted $5,000 down, but for no money down, he got into his Freightliner. So, but if you actually complete your first 3-year lease, then you can get into a premium truck with no money down. It's like there's so many different variables. Have you done your drive around the block? Don't get all worked up before. Rick Jones. No, I haven't done it yet. After this video, I'm going to make some changes and upload. I've already got another video uploaded, and I'll make that public after I change the thumbnail and put some links in it. And then I'm going to go inside and make sure I'm scheduled, because if I'm not scheduled, I'm getting the heck out of here. Because I've got a load booked. It's an open drop and hook, goes to Arkansas. Then from there, I'll go from Missouri to Ohio. So Tex Crowley says, exactly, trucking is not a one-size-fits-all endeavor. James Best says, MMA contributions are never the same either. Right. So if you're Snyder watching this, you're probably like, well, Steve, what you said last night wasn't true. Well, for some people it was. There are people that have Snyder Finance trucks with no MMA account. There are people that pay a lot in their MMA account. And depending on your area, what dealership you go to, there's one guy that said that the labor is cheap at the OC if you got a Snyder Finance truck, and then another guy said that it wasn't. So you have all these different perspectives. Benjamin Duke says, in my point of view, very few people know or were taught how to research ideas. Then we get frustrated and go on what someone says. Go on horse's mouth, not the exiting end. Right. It's the first guy on the right when you walk in that gives you the test. Tell him Clyde said hi. Oh, okay. I think that's Bill. Is that Bill? I know who you're talking about. It's the younger guy, right? Clyde. He's cool. He did my test last year. And, and Gary Compton, he did a video about his drive around the block test yesterday, and it was a good message. And Gary Compton, if you're still in here, where'd you take your test at? Because it seems like the guy was pretty hard on you. Yeah, good luck on my re-up. Hey, here's some education for you. Oh no, that's the other guy, Clyde. Obits? Oh, okay. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'm such a dummy. Big Rich says November van and reefer rates at 3-year highs. Yep. Yeah, Big Rich. I hear you. But that's, the downfall doing contract freight like we do. We don't see those rate jumps. However, we don't see the rate starves when it comes to slow season. But that, again, that's perspective. There's a lot of people going, oh, these Snyder rates are in the tank. My average rate per mile has actually gone up. But yeah, education is important. I went to Landstar based off of hearsay, and then when I got into the real deal, then I did my best to educate myself, but not in the right way. And a lot of times sometimes all you can do is talk to other drivers. Like, look at the Traveloco thing. Nobody had heard of Traveloco until Will and Matt went there, right? Until they started doing videos about it. So there was almost no research that you can do. And so since they're such a small company, at that time there was 40 drivers? If that? Out of several million truck drivers? It's hard to find a Traveloco driver. So you can't really ask them. You get on Truckers Report and you may not get an answer. So the only education he had was through Will and Matt's videos. And as they got more and more popular, more and more YouTubers went over there, and then now they're giving the education, but that's only their perspective. Then you got guys like Indiana Jack that really don't talk about it. I'm sure if you walked up to him privately, at the truck stop, he'd tell you all about it, but sometimes it's hard because sometimes all you have is hearsay. So that's where the internet comes in, and you look at the safety rating, you look at the insurance company, you educate yourself. I mean, think about, what is the one thing separating a poor man from a rich man? Education. Keep them dumb, and they can't make money. You might luck out, dumb luck, lottery, stumble upon one little invention that that makes you millions of dollars, but without education, you won't keep it. So, oh, look, a bird, LOL. Taxes. Rick Jones brings up another thing. Taxes is another thing. There's so many different ways to do taxes here. Or anywhere, actually. When it comes to YouTube trucking, you have to be aware of the company cheerleaders just looking for referral bonuses. Gary Compton, you are absolutely correct. And I've never claimed to be a cheerleader, and I know who you're talking about. You do have to be careful, because you got guys that work for, say, I saw a driver for US Express. He was like, oh man, I make, $1,800 take home as a contractor over here. What he didn't show you is that he was a trainer. So, and the other thing is, mega carriers tend to get a bad rap. Mega carriers are out to get you. Mega carriers are out to rob you. I had a friend of mine tell me yesterday, he goes, Steve, you need to be driving for someone else, because you're a better man than that. You're a better man than pulling a Schneider wagon. And I get what he was saying, but at the same time, it's like, there are reasons why the mega carriers are looked down upon, but it's guilty by association is what it is. Just like my video I did about no one lets you over when you need over, because they assume that you're going to be doing 58 miles an hour like the company trucks do. So educate yourselves beyond the YouTubes, because last night's video on Coach's feed and call-in is, he talked to 3 or 4 drivers. I want to say 4. That's 4 drivers' perspectives on one company that has 2,800 owner-operators. That's not a very big percentage. Now, if 2,000 of the 2,800 drivers have an opinion and they're all unified, that's probably, it becomes more fact at that point. Excuse me. So, if anybody thinks that these YouTube videos, here's the other message, okay? This is the important part. If anybody thinks that these YouTube videos influence the way mega carriers think, that is not a good assumption, okay? When Schneider decided to keep the mobile website active, so we don't have to use the app to book our loads, it wasn't because of messages on YouTube. It was because the 2,800 drivers, there was a lot of them that were giving them feedback outside of YouTube. There might be 10, 15 people watching my video right now that are Schneider drivers. 10, 15 people, and that's kind of a high shot there, that may or may not gripe to Schneider about the app or whatever, about rate cons or anything. Out of 2,800 drivers, I do not have an influence on what happens at Schneider. Nobody does. Jeffrey Like didn't, and he's got more subscribers than some of these other guys that have talked about Schneider. Now, has Schneider made mistakes and gone back on their word? Yes, this collision mitigation system, but it's coming. They're going to just do it differently. One of the biggest misconceptions that drivers have is that they have control of their company. When I was at Transland, I figured if I griped on Facebook about certain things that would change things. Did it? No. All it did was make me look like a whiny butthead. Yeah, Kevin, you got a wrench. Look at you. So, and that's what happens. These guys get on the Snyder Facebook pages and they gripe about this and they gripe about that, and then they'll tell you how to get around the app. Then they'll tell you how to get around the cell phone policy. And then they'll tell you how to get around the trailer search things and all that stuff. And now Snyder does watch the Facebook pages. They know that everybody was upset about the app, but they probably assumed it was for the wrong reasons. I don't have any issues with the app. Why? Because I haven't used it yet. Kristen Trucker brought up a good point. I was talking to him the other day. He said, we should be using the app instead of the mobile website, because when it comes down the line, when they finally do away with the mobile website, then you'll already be used to it. Just like the e-logs. All these people that are waiting till the last minute, they're going to be hurting come 2 weeks from now. James Best says, anyone signing on to any company merely on YouTubers are up for a rude awakening. Now, I talked to a driver. There was a driver with the red Freightliner parked next to me last night. He came up to me. He goes, Snorlord, what's up, man? He saw me from YouTube. And he goes, thanks to you and Free Like and I forget the others he listed. And he goes, and my own research. He added that, and my own research. I researched it for a year before coming over here. And, and he's into it 3 months, and he's like, man, I appreciate the info you put out, and I appreciate the message of hanging in there. And that's why I do this. I'm not always going to be at Schneider. And you know what? I'm still going to do videos. I'll stop doing videos about Schneider, because I won't be working here, but you have to find your own path. No, the machine's not done yet. Research can go a long way. Education and research. And the problem is, hold on, guys. I gotta plug in the phone again. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Okay. We good. All right, machine. Hey, machine, you're not sleeping. You're always sleeping, so glad to see you awake, sir. Do your research, beyond the YouTube videos, because all YouTube is now in the trucking world it's just a big, huge truck stop counter. That's all it is. James Bass says Snyder is and always will be a good stepping stone, but not retirement. There you go, sir. How do I find you on Facebook? Type in Snorlord. I've got a Snorlord public page now, Dave. So all I do is tell you my adventures of what I do out here, what I go through out here, the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs. And I really, looking back, I really wish I would have kept my Landstar stuff up, because you would have seen a depressed Snorlord. Anybody who's been watching me since the beginning knows that my attitude about everything changed. My demeanor changed. I was happier. And I am. However, people ask me, would you go back to Landstar if you had to? Yes. And I know I would do better, because you know why? Because I'm more educated, thanks to my friends like Jeffrey Like, thanks to the knowledge that I've acquired running this program, and improving my own situation by getting a different truck, getting my expenses lower, that kind of thing. That's all because of education. If you think you're going to make a truck payment and wing it, you're in for a reality check. Plain and simple. You can have fun out here. You can have freedom out here. You know, that's the other thing that comes up. You know, Schneider micromanages us. Yes and no. You know why they do some micromanaging? Because they know that they're putting guys in lease trucks that maybe shouldn't be running a business. How about them apples? All the companies do it. That's not just Schneider. All the mega carriers, even the small carriers, will put someone in a truck. And as long as you're making that payment, they don't care. And I believe that's why the failure rate for being a lease operator is so high, because you got lack of education and you're not in the right mindset. A lot of guys that start off aren't in the right mindset. Let me reword that. That is a recipe for failure. Kevin and Ollie, micromanaging is everywhere, even here, usually because someone screwed up or did something stupid. Right. We live in a day and age where, you know, there's a story about this lawnmower, and it had a warning not to pick it up while it's while the blades are going. They actually had to put that warning on there. Why? Because there was two guys that wanted to trim some hedges. So they started up the lawnmower and they picked it up and tried to trim the hedges that way. And one of them tripped and got his hand chopped off. That's why you have instructions on the lawnmower not to pick it up while the blade's going. And that's why you have that safety thing where you got to hold on to the handle. James Bess, I won't read that out loud, but I will agree with you about your statement. Now, Sharon has educated herself. If you listened to her last night, man, she was rattling off, you know, the FMCSA number. She's looked at everything, and she's going after money that's due to her. And that's what you do. You educate yourself, especially if you're going to go after someone. The other thing is, and Jay Cannell brought this up on his video about the guy that did that called the 73 Lounge a scam. You have to be careful, and I brought this up last night in the phone call, and everybody agreed with me. If you sit there and say that your Schneider will fire you or terminate your lease if you ask for your rate cons, and that's not the case, guess what? You could be sued. How about them apples? Sued for libel. That moment when that driver said that Trucker Spinal Mile pockets the cash, based in that off assumption, he could have gotten sued for that. Christian Trucker's in the house. I was just talking about you. Were your ears burning? I was saying good things about you, sir. So, us YouTubers have to be careful of what we say. And when I saw that I was making assumptions and telling bad information about Schneider Finance, because it was one or two people's perspective, I got off the phone call. Because I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be that guy that sits there and just makes assumptions and tells you like it's truth. It's like, you know, everybody, oh man, Swift's a bad company. Well, how do you know? Well, they wreck a lot. They're on the internet, wrecking a lot. You know, they hit my friend's truck the other day in the truck stop. Okay, but how do you know that Swift is a bad company? Did you work in the office? You know, are you basing your assumptions on facts? Well, you know, and then the right person, the educated person, is, well, their FMCSA score says this, this, and this, and they have this many crashes, and they have this many fatalities, and they have this much damage, this many failed drug tests, and all that stuff. Then you could say, judge your make your judgment based off of the facts that are on the internet, the facts that are on public record about how good or bad a company like Swift is. Not what 20 drivers told you, not what you see on Twisted Truckers. Education is the most important thing. Educate yourselves. Snyder doesn't do enough to educate us. I will give him that. Everybody says, oh, they micromanage us here. Well, not enough, because you wouldn't have all these guys turning in their Snyder Finance trucks if they were more educated on how to run the program, how to maximize their miles, how to maximize their business. And if they would just do that, Landstar does that, then, you know, maybe there wouldn't be as high as a failure rate as there is. Well, no, okay, that's an assumption. There wouldn't be the failure rate that there is. Whether it's high or not, I don't know. You know, that was brought up last night. Well, how many, you know, coach asks whoever, how many drivers do you think, you know, how many Snyder Finance trucks do you think are turned in per year? And the guy just made an assumption. Oh, it's really high. And that's not the case. I just did it myself. See, it's easy to do. Benjamin Duke, I agree with that statement. Christian Trucker says Snyder could definitely use a teaching plan for IC. Right. So, now I can sit here and say, Snyder, here's my message to you. Put out an educational program for the running the board. They don't care. They're not watching my videos. Now, if I go up to someone high up in Green Bay and suggest it, they might go, okay, we'll take that into consideration. But if it's not cost effective, it ain't going to happen. So, you have to educate yourself in different ways. Find a successful IC. And then ask them. I was told 80% success rate now. That came from SFI, so you take it from there. Right, Sean. BOA should be advisors when not just someone you call when there's a problem. Well, James Best, the problem I have with that is that every single person you call in that office probably has not driven a truck. They're not out here in the trenches. So, now, a good BOA will sit there and say, well, maybe you ought to look for this load, or maybe you ought to, you know, run it this way. You know, that would be cool. But at the same time, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because they're not out here. They're not driving. Now, they see what works and what doesn't work. So they could tell you, oh, run more short haul, run more long haul, or stay out of Pennsylvania or something like that. But you have BOAs that don't even know how to talk to people. That goes back to that how to win friends and influence people. You have to know how to talk to people. And that was brought up last night too, about some of the personality issues that you have in Charlotte. But then that was one person's experience, but then I have a decent experience with Charlotte. Only one time have I called in and someone was kind of rude to me. And probably because they're talking to 20 people, 20 truck drivers that are whining about stupid crap. So yeah, they have every right to be all upset, because they got a lot of, you know, dumb Alex calling in, you know? G Daddy Wax says Snyder makes it easy to learn to be an owner op the hard way. Dan, not Sandman, not every truck turned in is a failure. Berger was done with his lease and didn't renew because he was success, moved to the next step. Right, Dan. That is well said. You know, everybody assumes, oh, there's a big failure rate because Charlotte and Green Bay are full of all these Snyder Finance trucks. Nope, those are 1 year, 18-month leases. And like Harold Huffman, he's in here. He got rid of his lease and got into his own truck. Just because they turned in a lease in early doesn't mean it's a failure. Sorry, I'm quiet here, guys. I'm reading these. Chris Truck says they may make money when drivers turn in trucks. The problem with... Okay, so... Here's what I think is going on with Schneider Finance. You know, and G Daddy Whack kind of brings it up. Schneider makes it easy to learn to be an owner-op the hard way. Pennsylvania. Z-Man, 80% success rate. Does that mean the truck payments are being made or real success? Z-Man, that's a good point. That's an excellent point, dude. Speedwagon, when I was at CR England, they never once talked about purchasing fuels in IFTA. Guys, it is beneficial to the companies in all factions of life that you not be educated. If you complicate the system and don't educate the person, that's how you make money. That's what people do. Think about health insurance. Health insurance used to be simple. You had a copay, the rest was paid. Now they complicate the system, and in the end, you're just like, your head hurts and you just, here's my money. Because you're uneducated. You can learn the hard way. The lucky part is making it long enough to learn what not to do. LOL. Benjamin, that's exactly what happened with me at Landstar. Richard the Viking, what do you think is the reason for the greatest percentage of lease failures? Lack of knowledge, mismanaging loads, personality, lack of interpreting the business model. All the above, Richard. That is an excellent question. But I think a lot of it's personality and attitude. Little Guy Show, what's up, Matt? I was in Springfield and you wouldn't answer me while you were there. Richard Viking, you brought up, you brought up an excellent point. Attitude is everything, because it's attitude that's going to cause you to go out and get that education. Attitude is what's going to make it to where you don't just quit your entire business because Snyder screwed you on 2 loads. Or, or someone forgot to, update a load assignment or a trailer assignment. If you're that quick to go off the handle, you weren't a business owner. You're not in the right mindset. So it's a mindset. You go from, someone mentioned that Schneider Finance guys are glorified company drivers or Schneider owner-operators. We have the structure of a company in many ways, like the trailer pool and the mass amount of freight that we have. But still, no one calls me if I stay home for 3 weeks. Not that I've ever done that, but as long as you're making the insurance payment, they don't care what you do. If you got your own truck like me, no one bothers me. No one's calling me to say, hey, we noticed that your revenue is kind of low this week. No one's doing that. But at the same time, if I'm not putting money back to fix my own truck, guess what? Oh, what do you mean you have to leave? Oh, I can't make my truck payment. Okay, well, sucks to be you, but thanks for your help. No matter how long you are in business, you should always try to improve your business through education and trying different business practice. Gary Compton, I like the way you think, because that's all I've done. dude, I'm in a different mindset than I was 3.5 years ago when I bought my first truck. Way different mindset. If I had the same mindset then as I do now, I'd probably still have a blue star on my hat, because I would have made it work. And their Landstar did have some issues that made it more difficult, and that frustration got to me, but that goes back to attitude. I deadheaded 600 miles home because I was so upset on my last load with Landstar. And that's the other thing. You can't let emotions make your business decisions. A lot of people do that. They're like, F Snyder, F this load, F this truck, I'm out of here, man, because you're having a bad day. Now, you can say those things, take a deep breath, think, breathe, and think about doing an office job, and then you'll be like, okay, I got to make this work. So, Gary says Mr. Phrase Shaker Gary says the key to being successful is ask questions, research, some trial and error, motivation. No one's going to hold your hand out to here all the time. But I said, don't make me right also. Right. If you don't learn something each day, it's a day wasted. Little Guy Show. I agree. Completion of term of lease. If it's possible, I'd like to meet you in Ohio. I will buy breakfast, lunch, dinner. Jeff, that's cool. I'll be in Ohio on Saturday off of 70 there near Columbus. Christian Trucker says, little guy, oh, he's talking to everybody. Oh, man, I'm behind on comments. They called it fuel optimization, but they never once explained why they would. Speedwagon. They would call and chew you out, but never explain why the reason for that fuel optimization. Dollar Bill, I'm heading to Jacksonville tomorrow, but in a four-wheel looking at a Wabash Durplate HD trailer. That's cool. Brent. Do a music video of your drive around, please. Thanks. Dude, I'm not going to have any devices on or doing anything while that trainer's in the truck. The GoPro will be put away. Basically, the annual business review, what you do is they take you, we call it the drive around the block test. It's a little bit more than that. But they want to go like highway speed, inner city driving, basically like your CDL test in a way, a little bit. And they do it for a short distance, especially with somebody with more experience. They know, here's the thing, guys. There's a lot of guys out here who have been driving 10, 20 years. They have bad habits. And they want to see if you have those bad habits. And they're going to mark if you have those bad habits. Rick Jones, yes, it's policy. We have to do it once a year, every year. And that's been a big complaint with a lot of the owner-operators here. If he goes to take a picture of your CB, ask him why, LOL. Criticizer, McGee Films, that's a good one. So, and I could have a bad attitude about this annual business review, but I don't, because it's something that needs to be done. If I want to stay leased on here, it's something I have to do. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But you know what? When I talked to Jeffrey Like about Snyder for the very first time, the first time I ever talked to him, that was the first thing he told me. He goes, well, the worst part about Snyder is you got to do this drive around the block test. And he told me all about it. So I was like, oh, okay. I was really surprised when I went to Landstar that there wasn't a driving test. It never even entered my mind. I mean, I go to Landstar and I have a driving test? Whoa. Because they assume that if you can buy a truck that you know how to drive. Which is an assumption that could bite them in the butt, right? So I get why they do it. It's a liability thing, guys. It's all about liability insurance. They want to make sure that we are not a liability to them. They want to make sure that we're not dropping trailers bad. We're not doing the landing gear bad because so we don't have a back pain. That we're not falling out of the truck. That we're not doing dangerous things when we're doing our pre-trip. They want to know that we're not, speeding through corners and stuff like that, because that is a liability to them. It's all about the bottom line. It's all about the money. And to them, it's worth to pay somebody an hour of their time in the office to go out of their way to make sure that I'm not a liability. And that's all it is they're liability watchers. And people say, well, they should pay us for this drive around the block test. And I agree, but that ain't going to happen. That's not cost effective. And it doesn't matter to them that I'm losing revenue. I could have been rolling Monday morning, but instead I had to find a load for Wednesday because I knew that I'd have my tests scheduled today. And, so I lost Tuesday. So I'm having to work the weekend. But you know what? The way the freight is now, the way the rates are now, I'm going to have a decent week anyways, as long as no loads cancel. And if they cancel, I'll go home. I'm all right. Why? Because I've ran my business to the point that I've got some money saved up, and you always got to save up for the worst case scenarios. Remember last year? Had a turbo go out. That was a bad day. That was a very bad day. I'm still recovering from that bad day. But in the end, the only thing that got me through that time when my turbo went out was preparation for the worst and my attitude. How many times do you hear them say the Snyder way? Right. For those of you who are outside of Snyder, we have to hook up a certain way. And they're really strict on that because we drop and hook all the time. There's been days where I've had 4 different trailers. And sometimes you feel like a day cab, drop and hook guy when you're over here. Rick Jones is showing 18 thumbs up. Hammer Down says, I don't understand why the trucker's coach is so hell-bent on making Snyder and Snyder Finance look so bad. Hammer Down, let's talk about that for a second. If you go through his catalog, he did a lot of Snyder and a lot of Traveloco videos. I don't know why. And, and that question is brought up to him all the time in the comments. People are like, dude, why do you have such a hard on for, Snyder and the Traveloco stuff? And only Coach can answer that. Maybe if he's in here, he can answer that. Kevin and Ollie, what happened is he's probably used his voice to text and Snyder comes up that way. Other than the time inconvenience, I never thought the drive around was a bad thing. Many occupations have refresher courses and continuing education that are far more extensive than what we endure. Gee, Daddy Whack, that is a very good point, because when I worked at a nursing home, I was a cook at a nursing home, okay? But everybody, because of regulations, you had to do this quarterly, what they call in-service. And what it was continuing education on adult rehab and retirement facilities. And they had to teach us how to deal with all these different things. As a cook, I don't have to deal with. I'm not a nurse. I'm not dealing with the patients directly, but I still had to go through this in-service. It was state regulation to do it. And what that's there for is so you don't have those old school nursing homes that just let people, get bed sores and are abused and all that kind of thing. And that's what they're trying to prevent. So, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that Snyder does keeps us above that scale, that reputation that Swift and Werner tend to have, especially on places like Twisted Trucker, because of that continuing education. So that's a different perspective. People are probably watching my video going, man, Steve, you're so full of it. You're drinking orange Kool-Aid. No, it's not. It's just, it is what it is. And I have to do it, so might as well have a decent attitude about it. So guys, that's the thing. I'm not knocking on Coach at all. I thought his video was pretty informative in a certain way last night. It just shows that we all need to be better in educating ourselves on how to run your truck, your business, and how to deal with different situations in driving. You know, there's a lot of guys like me that won't do a video on how to hook up to a trailer because it's already been done 20 different times or 200 different times, and if you do it completely right, someone's going to sit there and say you did it wrong. Benjamin Duke says, as the coach has progressed in his trucking adventure, he has gained knowledge and information at different levels. As you move intensively upward, you look back and see where you've lacked knowledge. Yep, I agree. Life is nothing but looking back. But you gotta look forward. You gotta live in the moment, and you gotta look forward. Always prepare for the worst. Even as a company driver, okay, I'm raising my family on my income. What's as long as I'm making, say, 2,000 miles a week, I'm good at whatever rate they're paying. You know, that kind of mentality. That's what you gotta look for. If you go to a company and all the drivers are saying that they average 1,800 miles, you know, then you need to look elsewhere, because you need to look at why they're not getting above 2,000 miles a week, and then base your decision off that. Well, I can't work over there because if they're not getting 2,000 miles a week, that's what I need to sustain my family, to sustain what I do. So even as a company driver, you have to get in the mindset of just, you know, attitude and just educating yourself. Those are the two most important things. It's just like that video of what's the most important thing in trucking. It's this. It's your head. It's what's it up in here. Everybody knows the infamous video of the USA driver that was trying to turn around because he was coming up on a low bridge. He was losing it, man. He was all like freaking out, and he totaled that truck. And all I had to do was back up 10 feet, and he could have made enough of a U-turn. What was the defining factor there? His attitude, his mental state at that time. Sometimes you got to sit there and take a deep breath. You know, whether it's a driving thing or a traffic thing or a business thing. Sometimes you look at your checkbook and you're like, man, I got to do something here. I've got to make changes, and I've done that. You know, every time that things got kind of low at Landstar, I made adjustments. Okay, I'm going to try this strategy, see if this works. I'm going to try this strategy, and this works. Then I had drivers call me, hey, Steve, you know, maybe you ought to try this strategy. And everybody helped me in their own certain way, but it was my attitude and my ability or my willingness to go look for that information that kept me afloat enough to get me, you know, at least to get me somewhere. Snyder is a stepping stone that you need to better your business all the time, McGee Films. Right. If you're not going forward, you're going back. Right. This too shall pass attitude. Right. If things are great for you, great. But it's not going to stay that way. If things are bad for you right now, if you're sitting here watching this video, flipping me off, saying, Steve, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, and you're having a really bad, low day, know this. It's going to change. But it's up to you to make that change. That's it. You can do it. It won't always be like this. Whatever moment you're having right now, it won't always be like this. I could walk in there today. Well, Steve, we saw your video. You're an a-hole, so give us our Qualcomm. You're out. Guess what? I got plan B and plan C, plan D in place if needed. Why? Because I look at the worst case scenario. And if this truck has to be parked for a month, guess what? I'll still be okay. But it took the bad days, it took the trials, it took all the bad moments to create that mentality. It all the hard times had to create that. And that's the biggest point. If you're struggling now, that's only going to make you stronger later. And education can help with that. Hey, like if you get diagnosed with cancer or a disease, what do? You educate yourself on that disease. Okay, how can I cure this? How can I deal with this? How do other people deal with this? Or you can sit there and just put a bullet in your head. So, and what fun is that? One thing that hurts drivers is that they stay in the company mindset where they have to get 2,500 to 3,000 miles to be profitable instead of maximizing revenue while minimizing miles driven. Gary, yeah, that's right. And they do mention that in orientation, that you can't have the mileage mindset. But at the same time, if you're having trouble booking that $2 mile freight, look at your bottom cost. Like, okay, as long as I'm making $1.20 a mile, I'm good. And then, then you have to go that mileage mentality. It's like, well, I'll just run 3,000 miles to get what I need. But they at least tell you that in, they do try to tell you in orientation that you got to get rid of the more miles, more money mentality. But then they just don't tell you how. They tell you why. They just don't tell you how. Jeff Rednor says, I'm getting to that point thanks to you and Jeffrey. Well, I appreciate that. Gary, your point on that's any owner-operator in newer season. So, that's why I said in that other live feed, being an owner-operator is not easy. Our program makes it easy to make money. But it doesn't mean it's easy. If that makes any sense. It's easy to put your nose to the grind and just roll with it here. And that's part of the problem too, is it's easy to stay in the company mindset here because of the micromanaging, because of the way our freight runs. And so, but that high payment does not make it easy. And if you're sitting in a Snyder Finance truck right now and that payment is that big of a headache, but you like the program, we'll make that change. Figure out how to get a different truck. And that's not going to be easy. Snyder Finance makes it easy for a person off the street to get into a truck. So a lot of people do that and they assume that the rest of it's going to be easy, but it's not. Buying a truck is one of the biggest pains in the butt I've ever done. I've done it twice. Steve Berger can confirm that. James Best can confirm that. He's dealing with it right now. He's finding out that the dealerships don't always tell you what you need to know. He's finding out that dealerships will tell you different things to get you in the door. Buying a truck is not like going out and buying a car. Every time I've ever bought a car, I've sat there and said, man, that was too easy. Something's going to go wrong. Buying a truck ain't like that. Eventually I want to buy my own trailer. I'm not looking forward to it because, of all the different things I've dealt with buying a truck. Jeff Redner says, there's some weeks I make what I need, but at 2,800 miles, but there's been weeks I needed 4,000 miles. I feel you. Feel dirty after talking to salesman. Right. The salesman that sold me this truck, he had been with Kenworth for 25 years. He was retiring. He retired just like a couple of months ago. So if I wanted to go back and buy another truck, I don't know who to talk to because I wasn't impressed with anybody else in that office. I hate salespeople. I just do. Because if they're super nice to you, it's hard to trust them. But if they're just buttheads to you, you don't want to deal with them. And they'll tell you anything to keep their costs down. Because if you sit there and say, I want new tires, new wheels, I want the DPF clean, I want this, and this. Well, that's money coming out of their pocket to get that truck out the door. So they'd rather sell it to the guy next to you that didn't ask all the right questions. And the used truck market is flooded with a lot of trucks right now. Big companies like Schneider, what they do is they trade them in after 300,000 or 400,000 miles, and you have no idea how many people were in that truck. You have no idea how good they drove that truck. You have no idea the history of that truck. Yeah, you got some service records to see what was repaired, and you can look up trends of, okay, this truck always had electronic issues, that kind of thing. But even then, those records are based off of someone's word. Jeff Render says, heck, getting my base plate is a headache. Jeff, that was one of my original goals, was to get my own base plate. And guess what? Right from the get-go, right from the beginning, I called up Missouri. Hey, I need information on how to do this. Okay, we'll email it to you. And what did the email say? It said to call. So right off the bat, I'm like, and then everybody's like, oh, Steve, get your own authority. Well, hell, I can't even get my own base plate without any BS. So it's my attitude that's got to take me to the next level, to take me and say, Steve, you got to sit down and educate yourself on how to get your own base plate, because obviously they're not going to hold your hand. Obviously they're not going to do it for you. And if you pay someone else to do it for you, they may not do it right and they might screw it up for you. So education and attitudes keep me from getting my base plate right this minute. I've got the money. I just, when it comes to dealing with Missouri state stuff, I'm just like, there's this like roadblock that happens in your head. What's this guy doing? Oh, he's delivering fuel. VIN number for accidents, DOT violation. Weird racing, yep. So, all the states are different. I called, who was it that I called? I talked to somebody that just got their plates. He's at Traveloco, and he's getting his own authority, I think. And he got his plates from Missouri, and even he couldn't tell me everything because he was left confused. That's what you do. You confuse, and then you take the money. So, but that's just the way the world works now. That's how the corporatism. We don't have a capitalist society anymore. We have a corporatist society. There's a difference there. Corporatism is business without morality. It is not in these mega carriers' best interest for me to get my own plate and to get my own authority. That's the reality of it. So yeah, it's going to be made harder, but you have to really want it. I don't think I'm ready to get my own authority based off of my mental attitude, based off of my lack of education. I'm good friends with Jeffrey Like. He could probably walk me through the entire thing, but then maintaining that, I don't know if my mentality is there, because I'm just now gaining my business sense. I'm just now going from company driver to winging it to, okay, now we're running a business. It's taken me 3 years to get to that point. And that's all on me. That's not because of anything Landstar did or anything Snyder did or anything that the banks did. That's all up here. And I'm still fighting with that. I'm still I'm behind on my Truckin' Pro stuff. I'm behind on even, updating my checkbook. Well, only by one receipt, but still. You have to stay on top of this stuff. And I feel like I don't stay on top of it enough to get my own authority. So what's the next best thing? Get the higher percentage. Well, that requires get my own base plate and my own trailer. Am I ready to do that yet? Yes. I'm ready to attack that, but I got to plan that attack. I got to educate myself and make sure I do it at the right time and for the right company. Because as we've all said, Snyder's a good stepping stone. And it's not because of any discontent here. If I leave Snyder, it's because I want to better myself. I want to improve my business. Not because Snyder canceled 3 loads on me last week. Nothing like that. That happens. You can have your own authority and have that happen. Who are you going to blame then? That's the other reason why a lot of people don't want to get their own authority, is because they got nobody to blame if stuff goes wrong. Oh, well, we could blame the government. Blame the government for those e-logs. It's the e-log mandate that keeps me from making money. No, it's you that keeps you from making money. It's you that keeps you from adapting to what the e-logs are bringing. And if you refuse reality, that's where it's going to get to you. That's what's going to take you down. The brokers are going to find a way. Hey, we're going to fine you or tell you in the rate con that you got to pass it on to another company if you can't make it there on time. Benjamin Duke says South Carolina gives you a list, then you get it together. 3 proof of addresses. You have to have 4 items: lease agreement, letter of incorporating, or tax ID number. Yes, mentality is a tough change. Right. I couldn't agree with you more about capitalism, corporatism. That's why the uneducated people will choose socialism. There it is, hammer down. There it is. There it is, hammer down. Hammer down's John Citrone, by the way. To be honest, if you make more with less miles and have more home time you want, stay where you at, you define your success. Benjamin, the next move I want to make will allow that even on a grander scale. Especially now that the rates are really good. But as I've said, I'm doing all right here. Oh, Steve, I can't believe you're running for $1.20 a mile. No, I never said I was running for $1.20 a mile. We have good rates here. We have bad rates here. They tell you that. They tell you in orientation, hey, if you see an 80-cent mile load, don't take it. That's what the company guys are for. Let them take that load. And to be honest with you, if you find a load on our board that's like high dollar, that means there's some issue with it. That means it's probably a big pain in the butt. They can get anybody else to do it. That's kind of how the spot market works too. Tangling my words here. I'm like Canal and I drink life water. Water spelled wrong. I've seen people who have jumped into their own authority unprepared and they went bankrupt and wound up being company drivers again. Anthony, you see it all the time. Has the rates been better after the app? Well, Lafayette, they not a whole lot of guys are using the app because they never disabled the mobile website. So But I guarantee you they're watching a lot closer now on people that are booking while going down the road, because people are on Facebook. Oh man, well, all you got to do to get away from the app is you got to just plug in your laptop and use Wi-Fi, or you got to, or just get a tablet or get a second phone that on a hotspot, and or just don't put your all these different things. Like everybody's like, oh, just get a Bluetooth in their stereo, and because they're talking about people calling us in if they see us on the phone, and oh, just do this, oh, just do that, and not realizing that Snyder's watching Facebook, they're watching YouTube. There's a couple of Snyder drivers that have done going down the road live, reading comments on YouTube, and I had to sit there in a comment and say, hey, don't be doing this. They're watching us. They have a department dedicated to social media. So if you have a tip or trick that goes against your lease agreement, don't put it on social media, idiots. So I'm seeing better rates right now, to answer your question, because it's that time of year. The last minute stuff is going, and there's a lot higher rate of cancellations. There's higher rates of loads being late on when they're supposed to be loaded, ready times. But at the same time, they're getting desperate in the spot market. A lot of loads are being brokered out to the spot market from Snyder, and because they need them moved, they need them now. They're replenishing whatever has been bought for Christmas. But then come February 1st, man, because January there's still a little bit of time. I know a guy with his own authority who runs from December to the end of January and makes killer money because he's working when everybody else doesn't want to. So, damn, I'm long-winded. Lafayette the Great, but if booking while driving means more money, then why not? Don't self-snitch. Because here's a reason why you shouldn't book down the road, okay? If you have a load favorited that you're waiting for, let's say it confirms, okay? So you get on your tablet as you're going down the road, or your phone or whatever. You got bumps and you're trying to read this text while going down the road, and you might miscalculate, you might misread what that pickup and delivery time is, and you could really screw yourself up. I know somebody that booked the load by accident, that had it was only 400 miles and had a 2-week window. But it can only be delivered on that day 2 weeks from now, so you have to be taken off of it. The way I book my loads, guys, is I'm always up at 4 or 5 in the morning. That's when I book. During the 30-minute break, that's when I book. During the 10-hour breaks. And on the weekends, I'm on the load board on Saturday morning instead of Sunday morning. Everybody else is booking their freight Sunday afternoon. I'm booking it Saturday morning. And that's how I get it done. I will not book going down the road, because you never know if somebody slams on the brakes in front of you or whatever, that could be a bad thing. But the other part is that you could read the load info wrong and therefore screw yourself up. You might say, oh, it looks like, you might be going through Indiana on that stretch of 70 where you're doing this, and you're like, oh, that load's paying 80 cents a mile, and it's, or $1.80 a mile, and it's actually 80 cents a mile. It's like booking going down the road. It's just not a good practice. And Landstar, the agents could, they would call you and they were hope that you were driving, because then you can do your math, you can do your research. You can be like, okay, well, they just call you, hey, I've got a load paying $2.37 a mile. It's a really great load. You know, like, all right, well, that sounds good because you're driving, you're distracted or whatever. Hey, we're back. I'm back. David Boggs says, I book Friday night when I get home. Rates may go up the mandate after companies realize that people can't run like they used to, and they may end up price to get the freight moved. Right, Anthony. But no, guys, we're back. Something went wrong. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I think we've extended our stay, or overextended our stay here, and I got to go inside and make sure I actually do have an appointment for 11, and I got to get the truck reorganized for my passenger I will have for the next couple hours. So everybody take it easy, and thanks for watching, and you know, I'll read this one more comment. Steve, if a current company driver only 7 months experience comes to the Big Orange as company driver initially, how long will they be required to wait to switch to owner-op program, buy my own truck? I don't know the answer to that. I want to say 6 months, but I could be wrong. Dollar Bill. I don't want to. I want to make that assumption. Z-Man says, great live feed. Thanks. You're welcome, guys. 6 months, says James Best. So 6 months, Dollar Bill, 6 months. So, but guys, take it easy. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry this is a long-winded video. It seems like every time I go over an hour, I get a couple of thumbs down, and I get it. But it's time for me to get to work, because it's time for me to make some money. So, take it easy.